Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. The next page in our taco manual takes us to one of my favorite dishes. It's pescado zarandeado, or fish that's cooked over a charcoal or a wood fire, from the west side of Mexico. And probably a lot of you folks have been to, say, Puerto Vallarta, and you've seen these huge butterflied fish that are cooked for a big group of people and then presented, and everybody reaches in and takes some of the fish and makes these really wonderful tacos out of it. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to do the butterflying of the fish. I love trying to do it, but I don't want to scare anybody away. You can do this with fish fillets. Fish fillets will give you an easy way to one of the most delicious fish tacos that you could ever have. So the first thing that we're going to do is to make the marinade, which is kind of in two parts here. It's a roasted garlic oil that we're going to do, and then we're going to incorporate some of that oil into this marinade that's based on, well, let's say ingredients that might surprise you, because we're going to start with mayonnaise and soy sauce, okay? I'll explain why in just a minute, but let's make that a roasted garlic oil. I'm starting here with about 8 cloves of roasted garlic. Now, I did these in a dry skillet for about 10, 12, 14 minutes until they get the little dark blotches on them. But the most important thing is that the cloves of garlic are completely soft, okay? That says that they're cooked all through. They've lost the garlic harshness and become really sweet. So that's going to go into our blender jar here. And to that, I'm going to add 1/3 cup of olive oil. You could do it with vegetable oil if you wanted, but olive oil will give you a really nice flavor. And then for those of you working with table salt, the really fine ground table salt, you are going to put in 1 teaspoon. For those of us working with diamond crystal salt, it's almost going to be 2 teaspoons of the salt that goes in there. And then blend this, and we're going to make a coarse puree out of it. Coarse puree means still some texture in it. Okay, let's take a look at this and see what it looks like here. Well, not quite enough. I've got big pieces, and I really want it to be the step away from puree. All right, that should be good. Yep, I'm seeing just little tiny pieces. Let's pour half of that out. And that will become a brush that we go over the fish with before we put the marinade on, leaving half of the garlic oil here. I'm going to start the measuring of everything in here. I'm going to start with 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. And for those of you folks that make your own mayonnaise, I just have to say, it doesn't work as good without having the commercial mayonnaise. A good quality commercial mayonnaise, but it tends to just run right off of the fish. So we're starting with my favorite of the mayonnaise brands that's out there. And then the next thing that we're going to put in here is the soy sauce. Now, this might surprise you, but the original pescado zarandeado, and I'll tell you a little bit about why it's called that in a minute. But the original one comes from the state of Nayarit, which is just north of Puerto Vallarta, and one island that was inhabited by all of these Chinese people that came back in the 1880s. And they use a lot of soy sauce there. So the original marinade for a pescado zarandeado, at least this is what all of the historians say, was really just soy sauce mixed with some Worcestershire sauce, some oil, and some of this hot sauce that we're going to be using. Salt and pepper, and you're done, okay? Over the years, it has sort of become this other marinade that has this mayonnaise, which gives it a real richness to it. Okay, so I'm going to pour 1 tablespoon now of this soy sauce into the blender. And I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of a very special a special hot sauce. Now, this is Huichol that comes from the state of Nayarit. Huichol hot sauce is based on a particular chili called a cascabel. And so I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of this hot sauce in here. You could use Valentina, you could use Tamazula, or any of the other Mexican hot sauces, but I will tell you that this one has a unique flavor and it's available in a whole lot of the Mexican grocery stores. So I suggest that you search that out. I'm going to put here about half of a lime's worth of juice in here. You're looking for about a tablespoon. These are beautiful and juicy limes. So I'm going to put half of one. Usually you get a good 2 tablespoons, if not more, out of each lime. Okay, so now we're up to pepper and our final ingredient here. I ground what I thought was a half a teaspoon of pepper in here before we started, but it looks like it's a little shy. I like this to be, I just like pepper, so I tend to go a little bit heavy on the pepper in these. And then the last ingredient is the most controversial one because it's regular old yellow ballpark mustard. And lots of people that make pescado zarandeado and sell it to very happy customers put mustard into their marinade. It's not exactly to my taste as much. I know that so many people, when they're making the famous fried fish tacos from Ensenada, will use a little mustard in their marinade as well. So you can put that in about a tablespoon if you want to. I'm actually going to leave it out today, and I'm going to reblend everything that is in there, and that will give us the marinade that we are going to be using today. So top on and turn on the blender. All right. The next thing that we need to talk about here is the fish itself. So I have 2 beautiful skin-on fillets. I recommend skin-on because when you're cooking this, it will add flavor and it will give you a different texture as well, and it protects the fish some. So I always suggest grilling with skin-on. You will always have this little belly flap here that has almost no meat on it, and it can get in your way when you're grilling. So I suggest that you cut that off like that. We'll set that to the side. Now the really classic slashing of the fish, which is done pretty much everywhere in Mexico that they're cooking whole fillets like this. Oh, first of all, let's just talk about what I have here. This one is snapper, okay? Excuse me, this is bass, but you can use snapper. You could use any kind of grouper will work for this, maki. There's a lot of choices. I say freshness trumps pretty much everything. If you have a very fine textured fish, it will be very hard to grill. So you want something that has a medium to large flake in it because it's just easier to work with. So I've got my bass here. This is striped bass. And I'm going to show you how to do that slash that everybody does when they're grilling whole fillets. So you go about half of the depth of the fillet. This fillet is about 3/4 of an inch thick or so. And so I'm going to cut down about halfway, and at 1-inch intervals, cut down about half of the fish's depth. Okay. That will help things to cook more evenly, but it'll also give you a little repository for all of the marinades, so you get more flavor in all of this. Okay, so now we've got I'm going to set this to the side, and we're going to talk about the ingredients that we are going to need for our final presentation. The reason that I'm talking about that now is simply because once we go to the grill, we have to have everything ready to go. The red onion, that's going to add a beautiful, sweet and fresh crunch to things. I'm going to cut it in half like that. It's a half of a large onion, and then thinly slice this. The last little bit there, I can't slice as thin, so I'm going to put that over in the compost and then put that into a bowl and then cut up some limes. That will be absolutely necessary for our final serving here, because grilled fish with a squeeze of fresh lime is just so lovely. Now there's different ways that you can cut your lime wedges. The way I like to cut it is sort of not the way that most people do. I like to go in at this angle and cut my lime wedges because I think that they squeeze out more juice when you do it that way. Okay, all of that into a bowl. Now, one last thing before we do go to the grill. I'm going to say that I'm going to rinse this red onion off, just throw it into a strainer under cold water, because that will take away some of that onion's strong flavor and give it this really crisp texture that I love, but also a really, really clean taste. So my suggestion always when you're working with raw onion and after you cut it, to just rinse it off under cold water. Okay, so we'll have those things ready. I have to transfer our fish to a baking dish here, or a baking sheet here. And now it is time to collect all of our stuff and head to the fire. Okay, this may surprise you just a little bit because I'm not cooking in a grill outside. Now remember when I told you that pescado zarandeado in the area of the west coast of Mexico is almost always cooked on a wood fire? So what I have behind me is a wood fire. Now, I love, love, love grilling. So a few years ago, I sort of re-engineered all of this thing that was a small fireplace in my house into something I could actually cook in. And I have set up in here what's called a Tuscan grill. They're not very expensive at all. And it's just a structure that gives you 3 different levels of cooking and a grill grate that you can take in and out like that. So it's just a metal structure. It's very, very simple, but it works just great if you have a fireplace that's big enough that you could cook in. But for those of you that are cooking over a charcoal fire or even a gas grill, you can do all of this well. But I kind of want to go back to the roots and show you what it's like when you're cooking pescado zarandeado over a wood fire. Okay, so we have to prepare the fish now. So I have the slits cut in it as I showed you already here. And we have this, I'm going to call it garlic oil. It's got a lot of the garlic in it as well. And I'm going to brush it sort of heavily over, but those slits are going to allow me to go down deep in here and make sure that everything is seasoned. Okay, so go down into it like that. And I'm using up just pretty much all of this garlic oil that I have here. Now I'm going to sprinkle it liberally with salt as well. We do have salt in the marinade, but this is going to need a little bit more here. So I will sprinkle that over the top just to make sure it's evenly distributed. Now the next thing is to go in with our marinade and put that on top of the garlic oil. You see how I'm sort of dabbing it on here like this? And I want to make sure that it gets down in all of the slits. Okay. Now we have to talk about the grilling part of this. Now, if you're using a charcoal or gas grill, you can grill this just right on the grill grates. That works perfectly fine. But I would suggest starting it with the underside being the skin side of this. Oil it very well. Oil your grill grates, your hot grill grates really well. And then start it that way. Then oil the top of it and flip it over. And I use an oil sprayer always because I think it just coats really evenly and very nicely. But what we're going to do is to go to the grill basket that is used for fish pretty much all over the world. You can buy these things very easily. I like the ones that have this sort of springy texture rather than the rigid grill grates on it. And we're going to heat this basket up. I'm going to just set it over the fire for a minute to heat up. And then once that is very hot, both sides of it, I'm going to spray both sides of it inside and out with oil to just help not let anything stick at all. This allows us to be able to flip everything because the fish is going to be in a basket, and that's what the actual name of pescado zarandeado means. It means flipping it over this wood fire. Okay, so it's going to be hot now on that side. I will flip this side over, and then I've got my oil sprayer here, and I'm ready to lift this up and just give it a nice even coating on the inside there, this side, the top of it, and then I'm going to flip this guy over and oil that side of it. Now, putting it down here, oops, right, I'm going to turn it over this way. Okay, I am going to open it up and lay the fish into it. That'll be the easiest way for me to do this here. And just take, again, we're going to start it with skin side down, just like I told you would want to do if you are going to be laying this on the grill grates. So I'm going to lay these guys here, or this guy here on that side, and then the same for the second one, like that. Now I'm going to close this basket up. Reach it there. Okay. And then it has a little piece that I can slide in here and keep the basket shut. And just for a little added protection here, before we go much further with this guy, I'm going to actually spray the skin side of the fillets just so that they can crisp up nicely. And the crispier they are, the easier they will come free from this grilling basket. So I'm going to flip this here. This is about a 3/4 inch fillet. So it's probably only going to take us about 6 minutes or so, but after we get it really going well on the skin side, meaning that I'm hearing some sizzling there, I'm going to start flipping it around. And I will say 6 to 8 minutes is what it's going to take us to get this perfectly cooked. Okay, we've got to get it out of the hinged basket now. And what I usually do, especially if you don't use your hinged basket very much, it may stick a little bit. So you just want to make sure that it's free. So I'll just pull these guys up like that to make sure that it's not sticking anywhere. See, it's a little sticky there. Okay, but that's great. Now I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side, but I already unhinged this lock, and that would be disastrous if I didn't have that in there. Okay, let's make sure that it's not sticking any. It's a little stickier on this side here, but I want to make sure that these guys come up so that it doesn't tear anything when we try to move it out. I think it's getting there. Yeah, looks good. It was better on the other side. Okay, I think I've got it all freed. It was stickier on the side with the skin there. So I flip this guy over. We know that this side came off really nicely. Here, I'm just going to move our garnishes back just a little bit so that I can tip this back and set it there. Okay, now I got to move the fillets off of this basket. So I'm going to just go up underneath here where I've freed it from the back. Still a little tiny bit sticky on that side, but I think I can lift it up now. Yeah, beautiful. And we'll put that onto our serving platter. Now the other one. Beautiful. Okay, get this thing away over here. And I have our onion that I'm just going to sprinkle over the top of it because I want people to dive into this and make tacos with some of the crunchy red onion. We'll take all of these limes and sort of scatter them around the outside of it. Now, I like to use a little bit of finishing salt here, like the Maldon salt, the really flaky stuff that is such a great finishing thing. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that over the top of it here. That crunch is just so lovely. We've got our Huichol sauce, or any kind of a hot sauce from Mexico will work here, but this is the classic one for pescado zarandeado. So I encourage you to go out and find some. And of course the salsa Huichol, or any other Mexican hot sauce, but salsa Huichol is certainly what you find served with pescado zarandeado on the west coast of Mexico. I can't wait to dive in, so I'm going to grab a warm tortilla here and take some of the fish and the onions. Look at that. A squeeze of lime over the top and a little bit of Huichol. Oh man, I think things get a lot better than this.